Hello, my name is Kevin Eisbor, and I wanted to explain why I no longer vote. I don't vote anymore, and I haven't for many years. And why that is for two different reasons. Uh, Two different reasons. I don't vote anymore because my vote hardly counts that much, if it does. But I'll get to the second one saying that I don't think it does. But assuming that a vote counts out of the American population of more than 300 million people and easily 20 million plus voters, because most of them don't vote, I'm still looking at least, without a doubt, at least a million votes for the president, anyways, for that vote, anyways. And out of a million, I'm literally one out of a million votes. They say, oh, that one vote can make that difference. Well, it has to be so friggin' close, it's unrealistic. I mean, it's possible. And they say that at the beginning of this nation, when there weren't that many votes, it really was so close. But all that, and you kind of have to wonder why that is. It's probably because somebody made it be close because of rivalry, and they just didn't want anybody to win without it being hard for them or something like that. And there's a sense of that going on. I don't know. But anyways, that's all conspiracy theory, and nobody can prove anything there. But anyways, so that's the first reason is that I'm only one out of a million, probably a lot less than that my vote counts for, assuming that it does. Okay, so the reason number two is that it doesn't count. My vote doesn't count at all. It's more of a survey. It's honestly, my vote's just a survey for the President of the United States of America, or probably most anything, except for the state level, maybe. I think the votes there probably do count, but I think when you're talking about federal votes for laws at the national level or federal level, president or laws for the whole nation, electoral college, at least for the president, anyways, I'm sure about that. Electoral college is the one that votes for the president. It's not a guy like me. It's not the average U.S. citizen. It's not the masses that vote for the U.S. president every 8 years, and it's almost always every 8 years instead of 4 years. And they always do get reelected, as far as I can remember, all the way back to when I was a kid. And 37 years old now, so it's over 3 decades of every friggin' president having 8 years. Ronald Reagan, George Bush, William Clinton. Then there was George Bush's son, same name, different person, George Bush. And then there's Barack Obama. Barack Obama had 8 years. President Bush had 8 years. William Clinton had 8 years. And before that, it was the other President Bush. I'm not completely sure, but I'm mostly sure. Bush Senior, I think they usually call him. George Bush, back in around 1990 or so, somewhere around there. That President George Bush in the year 1990. He had an 8-year term, and he was president for 8 years. And then Ronald Reagan probably was president for 8 years. There's something about JFK obviously not having the 8 years. Well, he got assassinated, that's why. But anyway, so I if you don't find that strange, I don't know what's wrong with you, but that's strange to me. So 8 years, they always get reelected, or almost always, and there's something really fishy about that, something weird and suspicious about that. All the U.S. history seems to have that, and maybe it's just simply like Apple Computer can kind of think that maybe some reasoning in that. Apple Computer, everybody friggin' wants an Apple Computer. They basically worship Apple, and everybody loves to shop at Walmart. Well, not everybody, but most people. So I like to not shop at Walmart, and I like to buy IBM. But that's just me. I'm not totally against Apple. I kind of like their iPhone. I never had one, but I kind of like the idea and what it sounds like. Probably not their latest one, but probably the iPhone 6. Probably not the 7, but Um, I, anyways, I guess there might be something good about the 7, but I heard something more bad. I heard more bad news about the latest and greatest iPhone than the newest. But anyways, this isn't about Apple really so much. It's just about voting. And why I'm not voting anymore is because my vote hardly counts, and I'm only one out of many different votes, and I don't really have enough say to think that it's worth my time and effort to even make a check mark on a touch screen at a voting booth or whatever, and especially drive anywhere to do it. If I have to do that, but just saying, even if it's a simple effort and it's on my home computer and it's a pop-up, I don't even have to do anything, and it's an invasion automatic pop-up for voting. All I have to do is check out of a handful of different presidents to be president, and then it slides to the right of the computer screen, and there was the vote for my U.S. president. I'm automatically registered, like, um, who's talking about um, uh, Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton. So anyways, I can't imagine that Hillary Clinton's not going to become president. It's before the election now, and there's some election things. Anyways, once she becomes president, it'll rarely stop if it ever does. There's going to be a trend for women president in the U.S.A. from now on, and maybe there will be different races, Asian women, black women, or African American women. Maybe there'll be Mexican American women or Hispanic, et cetera, et cetera. Eskimo, Native American. I mean, you name it. Just women, basically, of whatever race within the human race is going to be U.S. president from now on, with little to no breaks, just forever and ever, and until this nation ceases to exist, whenever that is. But supposedly, that'll happen to England too, because no empire lasts forever, according to human history. The Babylonian Empire lasted a long time. Roman Empire. There are some remnants of the Roman Empire called the Roman Catholic Church. But anyways, not getting into all of that for hours and hours on this video. Just gonna make this 8-minute video and stop in a few seconds. Just to say that my vote hardly counts. If it does count, and it does, and I don't think it does, does it all. I'm pretty sure it doesn't, because it's just a survey, from what I understand. When the damn electoral college just votes, and they have a history, and I'm old enough to hear about. I think it was William Clinton and versus Ross Perot, or was it Ross Perot versus Bush, something like that. Ross Perot was at a time winning or something like that, but for some reason it flipped or changed, and then there's this guy I just seen literally yesterday. This guy on Infowars, uh, and he was showing video proof and evidence that there really is people tampering with remote control or otherwise. They're programmers basically, and they know how to tamper with these electronic voting booths or voting machines and computers and stuff. And whether or not they're a hacker halfway across the world, or they're just in their car across the street, or they're actually physically handling the machine, they do it all sorts of ways, I guess. But anyways, I don't trust it. I don't trust it. There's enough proof, even if there's no tampering with the votes. Well, how do they change? Why do they change so fast? When somebody was winning, then William Clinton ends up winning later on, or was it George Bush? It was one of those two. And there was that in the America's history, an unfair vote, and like the electoral college. I was taught in high school that they get the friggin' final say in it. They have the damn final say in it. The electoral college votes for you, the American citizen. You don't. You do a survey. You have influence. You have influence, and you have manipulation power. They take a look at that on a general thing, and you may or may not be considered, depending on how the electoral colleges feel at the state level. And it's all up to them. The final decision rests in the electoral college and the people in the electoral college. And kind of like Steve Jobs saying that he got kicked out of his own company. And it's just like the Patrician 4 video where there's a group of men at a table, effectively like the round knights of the table. Or, yeah, the knights of the round table, I mean. And so it's a group of elite men or a group of rich men and women, maybe sometimes it's women too. And that small group of people that some people call elites or whatever other negative terms, really derogatory terms, that they are the ones that fight against bad stuff in the world, but they don't do everything right. They're not necessarily moral about what they do, and they abuse their power in a group way, sometimes half the time or so like that. And they unfortunately, that's why the USSR probably had trouble, from what I hear. It's in theory, a communist system can work perfectly, but in practice, does it work? No, it doesn't because of abuse of power. If it weren't for abuse of power and people did the right thing that were in power in a communist system in the USSR, they could get their stuff straight. But there's too many corrupt individuals. There's just too much corruption that these people make the wrong decisions. They don't do the right thing. So with that happening, systems fall. The systems fall down, and there's some things that's called checks and balances, but that only works when there's too many individuals that are corrupt, like there often is. The system, this checks and balances, it kind of just temporarily solves some things, and there's just too much that continues to come on. There's too many problems. Anyways, I've lost all hope in humanity. Like one video on ICANN, International Consciousness Awareness Network, it said, and I haven't really lost all hope for humanity, but I've just lost basically all hope, or most of my hope, in the United States of America. And I can see things going good in certain ways, but overall, I think that America's kind of done for, and that they're a newer nation compared to some of these. You take a look at it, most any European nation, maybe except for Greece. Um, Not sure about them, but that they're more prosperous. They have, I've been there personally in Germany and in England and France. France has a lot of people who pickpocket, but besides that, all the other people really have their stuff together. They're individuals that have integrity. They do the right thing. They want to do the right thing, and they choose to do the right thing. They don't have bosses or employers that are corrupt too, that want to just squeeze the life out of them and overwork them and not pay them properly. Too many bosses here that were greedy that I had. This the only thing that's hopeful is the U.S. government compared to them. I have to admit that, but the U.S. government has their own problems, and I've heard enough things about former CIA agents and that either quit or they retired, but they have complaints. They know there's corruption. There's individuals that are CIA agents that just don't do the right thing. They abuse their power. It's called abuse of power or misuse of power. Sometimes it's called lack of action when it's needed. But anyways, I'm through with the politics, sick of it, and I never really liked it that much. Anyways, it's just the whole idea is bullying is the central issue about who's the president or the king or the commander. You know, not always the owner, but usually an owner of a business. I mean, just people who are like the owner of Walmart, the president of the United States of America. They oftentimes abuse their power and they're bullies. People, the humanity has always been like that, but it needs to change. NASA gave me a good impression when I was a little boy, and about 10 or 11 years old, I think. And they gave me a packet. Anyways, I seen some of the crew and the pictures, bright smiles. I heard information about them. I seen some speeches of astronauts. They're more professional than any U.S. president, besides maybe a few. But on average, I mean, it's extremely hard to find an unprofessional speech from an astronaut that worked for NASA, and those people really ought to be president. They wouldn't probably abuse power. Maybe possible. I heard something bad from this one female astronaut that did some kind of crime. I forget how major it was and what it was, but anyways, well, there's something imperfect about some astronaut that ever worked for NASA. Like all the others, I've never heard of anything bad, any crimes, and I've just all their speeches seem to be professional, without any swear words, without any attacking the other candidate, kind of a thing. Not that they need to, because they're not in politics; they're just NASA astronauts. But still, I can't imagine that they would attack, that they would decide to attack another candidate if they ran for president. That would be a wonderful thing. And maybe I would start voting then, if ever a NASA astronaut or an astronaut that worked for NASA, yeah, would run for U.S. president. I probably would start voting then, even if it was just a survey, because that's all it is when the final decision rests on the electoral college. It's the truth that I was told in high school back in 1990, or back around at least 1997. It's 1996, it's around there, mid to late 90s. I was told that in high school, sometime around there. Sometime around then. So, all right, so 17 minutes. I hope you've seen all this and got something good out of why I don't think highly of, and I think they're unprofessional and they abuse their power, and or some of the times, often, maybe not always, but often. And maybe it's not always individuals. Sometimes it might be groups of people that get together and they still do the wrong thing. And you think that that would be checks and balances. Well, it doesn't always work out like that. Not here in the U.S.A. Sometimes they all get together and they still do the wrong thing. They still decide the wrong decision. These groups of people that are elites or involved in electoral college, involved in politics, involved in Congress, congressmen, etc. CIA agents. There's a group of CIA agents. There's no one individual. It's a group there. FBI is a group of people too. So, anyways, I said enough. 18 minutes. Okay, so have a good day, and I discourage you to vote unless a NASA astronaut actually runs for president. And even then, you probably don't want to waste your time. And I'm not saying to move out of America, even though I'm thinking about it, but I'm saying, I'm just saying that no matter who you vote for, they're probably going to do something that you don't like. And some people say it's just the lesser of two evils. But I'm saying you don't have a choice. It's electoral college. And that's what I was taught. And I'm sure it's true. It makes sense to me. And it's not a conspiracy theory. It's what I was taught in public school, paid for by the taxpayers and by the U.S. government and stuff like that. Anyways, all right. So I have some faith in America, but just not like that. Not when voting for the president. Not when voting on the federal or national level. I don't have faith in them anymore. If I ever did, I guess I did as a kid when I didn't know much. But all right, so have a good day, and hope they got useful information.